Hey YouTube, what's up? Teepen here. I've got something really cool to show you today. On November 9th, 2018, a New Zealand company by the name of Rocket Lab launched its third Electron rocket. This rocket was carrying consumer payloads, thus the mission was dubbed It's Business Time. It's Business Time has something really peculiar about its launch profile. When the rocket launches and the first stage reaches MECO, or the main engine cutoff sequence, then the rocket begins to slew. Its attitude, or the way it's pointing, begins to change. Stage separation happens, and then the second stage dramatically changes from where it was pointing up to in excess of 30 degrees. Once that second engine lights, the gimbaling happens, and thus the rocket immediately points back in the original direction it was going and continues off into space. That made me really curious, and I asked myself, so how did the rocket know, first off, which direction it was originally pointing, and then how to point back in that same direction so it can continue on the perfect orbit that this rocket is trying to reach? Well, let me share with you how that works. That works through a process called attitude determination and control. Attitude refers to how the rocket is pointing, or in other words, the direction that the nose is pointed. Determination and control refers to how it's able to figure out which way the nose is pointed and then control how that pointing happens. This happens through a process known as a feedback loop. So first off, the sensors read which way that it is pointing. This sensor could be anything like an accelerometer or a gyroscope or some type of inertial space system. The way that works is that it figures out which way the rocket is pointing based on the changes in motion that happens. It's all based on acceleration. Then what it does is it figures out, okay, now that I figured out where I am, is this where I want to be? It's a simple yes or no question. If the rocket is pointing where it wants to be, great, you're done. But if the rocket is not pointing where it wants to be, then it has to perform some action, whether it fires thrusters, gimbals its engine, it has to do something to point to where it wants to be. Then this feedback loop happens again. Once that pointing happens, it goes, all right, let me read where I am. Uses its sensors, figures out where it is it where it wants to be, yes or no. If it's a no, it corrects, reads the sensors, yes or no, it corrects, reads the sensors, until that feedback loop says, yes, I am where I want to be, and thus no more action occurs. In the case of the Electron rocket doesn't have any cold gas thrusters like the Falcon 9 does. As a result, once that MECO happens and the engine stops producing thrust, the rocket has no way of controlling how it is in space. Thus, you see this turning motion, which could be caused by anything like high winds in the atmosphere, some gimbaling that was happening prior to cutoff, but once that engine cuts off, there is no way for the rocket to produce torque. As a result, the Electron performs a stage separation sequence very quickly. It has to turn off the first engines, separate the first and second stage, start the second engine, and gimbal back to its original seconds. And if you look at the video, this happens within 9 seconds. Engine cuts off, stage separation occurs, second engine lights, and 4 seconds later, it's already pointing back in the correct direction. If the Electron didn't perform this sequence so quickly, it could start to turn too much to the point where the rocket can't be corrected and it's a mission failure. As a result, this attitude determination and control feedback loop that we talked about is so important. And if you don't get it right, you could end up with something like this Trident missile failure that happened where the US Navy didn't get its attitude determination and control right, and it ended up spinning in circles. With that, my name is Teepen. Feel free to check me out on social media or subscribe to my channel. Peace out.